Okay, so we are live. Welcome to the Premium Podcast. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Danny.
Hey, guys.
Just wanted to introduce. Just wanted to introduce ourselves. So we are a PNC focused insurance podcast, and we'll definitely try to talk about other types of insurance, but right now it's going to be mainly PNC focused. So I wanted to introduce Victoria, and she is one of our main hosts. So Victoria, if you can introduce yourself, kind of tell us who you are and your background, and go for it.
Yep, absolutely. So, hey, everyone, I'm Victoria. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, celebrating our Braves. This great champion here.
Yeah.
I've been in the insurance industry for about 10 years at this point. I actually went to school for biology and graduated with a health science degree and worked for a science company. And I realized that the only way to make the money that I wanted to make was to go to school for like 10, 15, 20, 30 more years, right? So I decided to quit my job because I didn't want to do that and get my PNC and life and health license. I joined my husband's nationwide agency at the time and helped him grow it, learned the ropes, learned about the insurance business, learned how to sell, network, pretty much everything. And awesome, best decision I've ever made. And then I eventually went off and opened up my own independent agency. And another great decision. I love the independent world and sold that, got into commercial for a while. And now I'm here as a business development manager and I love it. I'm working with agents on the other side. So pretty awesome. That's how I met these two guys.
Awesome. Definitely a wealth of experience. Thank you, Victoria. Danny V, take it away. Tell us about your background.
Absolutely. Afternoon, everybody. Danny Ventresca. I'm sort of an insurance brat. I grew up in a State Farm agency. My father's a 50-year active agent. So that's really where I cut my teeth. Unfortunately, there's no legacy clause, as any State Farmer knows. So I had to find my own path, which kind of ended me up with Farmers Insurance in a role that I actually really liked. And I kind of developed my love for training while I was with Farmers and really liked the whole experience there, but realized, much like I realized while I was at State Farm, that captive agency really wasn't for me. I liked the idea of the independent channel, not just one rate, but a group of carriers that you could work with and build a book that way. So spent the past 7 years as a principal of my own independent agency. But like Victoria, really enjoy agency and dealing with agents. So really just enjoying my new role.
Awesome. So as you guys can see, the people that are joining in, we're getting some nice viewers, by the way. We're getting people joining. Victoria and Danny has a wealth of experience, captive, independent, different platforms. I myself, I'm not an expert. I don't have a lot of insurance experience, but I do have a lot of technology experience and I love to talk and I love to be a part of a podcast. I did a podcast before. So with that said, for the next, 20, 30 minutes, we're definitely going to try to entertain you as much as possible. And the first topic is going to be the times. And we're going to kick it off with Victoria, and she's going to basically tell us the current state of things and the times and what that means to her, and then kick it back to Danny as well. So go ahead, Victoria.
Yeah, definitely. So keeping up with the times is probably one of my favorite topics. I think it's important regardless of what industry you're in, not just insurance, but in insurance, it's considered an old school industry. So you got to keep up with the times. The first thing I think about is Blockbuster, and I think about the Blockbuster insurance agent, and then I think about the Netflix insurance agent. And the Blockbuster insurance agent is awesome, well known, we know the name, profitable. Everybody trusts them, walk into the agency, local agency, great, right? But then you got the Netflix agent coming in with an app, and the insureds don't have to go into the agency. They can do everything online. You know what I mean? And they have more carriers and just more opportunities. So it's like, which one do you go to? And I'm a millennial, and I'm just thinking about, the generation after me. I have a 6-year-old kid. Like, she doesn't know what Blockbuster is. She's not going to want to go into a local agency to get a quote. She's going to want more carrier access. And so it's like, with any business, you have to be able to be open to, adding technology and keeping up with your competitors, and not to say the local agent is successful, but in order to actually grow in any industry that you're in, you have to keep up. You have to.
Sure. So. Yeah, I like the analogy used with the Blockbuster. It's such a great analogy. So, Danny, take it away. What do you think?
When I think of times, it really brings me to a reality that the independent channel really hasn't spent as much time and energy on that technology piece. Much to what Victoria is saying here, I kind of started my career again with State Farm when there were carbon forums. I'm flipping carbon paper to submit applications, and thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the captive world really found that way. The State Farms, the Allstates, the farmers, they did a really good job of recognizing not only the need for technology, but direct to market, and really read the consumer, where the IA channel seems to have taken a little bit more time. And I've spent the better part of my 20-year career, again, half in the captive world and half in the independent channel, saying to myself, there's got to be a better way. My father, when he started out in the industry, they were still sewing life policies together in a large commercial sewing room, if you could believe it. That's literally how State Farm used to issue life policies, was with a sewing machine. In any event, I really like where we are right now as an industry, because it seems like the IA channel has finally caught up, or at least some of us have finally caught up with what the captives are doing. And it's just kind of blowing the doors off of everybody. And I'm really enjoying it.
So when they sewed the policies together, how did they deliver? Like by horseback?
Yeah, right. I'll make sure to remind my father of how old he is. Thank you.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, I'm serious. Like, how was it delivered back then?
It's just snail mail, obviously. But yeah, it was
has to be a physical document.
It was a physical document that was typically presented to the insured by the agent, right? So it was a policy mailed to the agent, and then a lot of times over the kitchen table, right? As far as how the times have changed.
Oh yeah.
A lot of kitchen table business was done back
especially
in the day.
with life insurance. Yeah.
Huge with life insurance, totally.
So I'm not a millennial, but I'm not too ancient just yet. But for me, when I buy insurance, I just went online and I want it now. I want as many quotes as possible now. I've never spoken to an insurance agent, but I've gotten them over the internet. So that's kind of the mentality that I have. However, working in insurance now, I wish I would have had the opportunity to speak to an agent, because I know now that I'm missing out on some options that that I'm not taking advantage of. So with that said, the next topic is technology. So Victoria, talk to us about technology and the importance of technology in insurance.
Yeah. Definitely. So it kind of goes with keeping up with the times too. So with me personally, like, being on the captive side, technology was a little bit different than independent. When you're an independent agent, you need to have a rater and a management system. When I speak to agents that don't have any kind of system and they're logging into 30 carriers to do 1 or 2 quotes, I'm just like, how long is it taking you to get this done? One account, one household. So I don't get it, but it's important. It saves you time. You can lose clients if you don't give them their quotes in a timely manner. But go to the competitor. But go to the Netflix agent.
You're totally right, Victoria. Think about it in terms of everybody who's calling in for an insurance quote typically has a number in their head.
Exactly.
And that speed game that you're referencing, right? It might not be as applicable when it comes to commercial, right? Because it's a value sell always. But when it comes to auto specifically, it's a speed game. If you don't have the proper rater, if the rater's not accurate, you're put into a position where by the time you've presented a quote, they purchased it from someone else. And you might have had that $400 rate, but they were thinking $600. And as soon as they got that $600 number, it's gone. So that technology that Victoria's speaking to right now, as far as the speed game goes, it's just imperative. But also it's accuracy. It can't just be fast. It has to be accurate. And a lot of the systems that we're using now as an industry aren't as accurate as what's out there.
No, and I personally can vouch for that. Like when I had my agency, I was using EasyLinks, and they're great company, but I had to type in a 17-digit VIN number. And if I was doing a home quote, I had to have Zillow pulled up to figure out what's the protection class, or get the appraisal to figure out what's the miles from the fire station, fire hydrant. You use a system like Renegades where you type in someone's address and it populates that information for you. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, if I would have had something like that, I mean, I would have cut
it's accurate.
time, You got to have these tech features. You have to nowadays, because somebody's going to do it. The Netflix agent will do it.
Well, and what you're talking about too is the pre-population of the info, Victoria. So it's
Yeah,
100% accurate. There's no room for error where you've
exactly.
misinput a digit in the driver's license or the VIN number that's causing error that ultimately is going to slow down the binding process itself. You know,
Yeah.
when you've got a system smart enough to kind of auto-generate
Mhm.
the information that you need to quote, it's again really imperative at this point because that's where we're going.
Yeah. Or having to scan your license and have them do it. Give them the control to enter their information in,
Sure.
apps like that. I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive.
So
Yeah.
we have a lot of guests. We're definitely adding to the ticker of guests, and we're getting a lot of comments. And we have a comment from Raul, and he says transparency is the key,
Yeah.
and more options or choices. So the more options and more choices will definitely help you, win deals, and that's what technology delivers. You mentioned Renegade, obviously. They're definitely leading the forefront, the charge with that. You mentioned Easy Links. I know a lot of people uses Easy Links, Quote Rush. Different technologies out there. Are there anything else, guys, as far as besides quoting systems and certain things like that insurance agencies or an independent agency can use from a
Automation.
What?
Automation.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of sales, it's the automation not only can allow you to put more of a focus into your sales, right? If you're going to take a team member away from doing things like home no auto letters, auto no home letters, or you're going to take a member away from having to figure out where the rate increase occurred and then attack it to try to be proactive prior to those individuals getting their renewal, and allow them to put that focus into the sales process instead. Systems at this point, systems like Renegades are automating a lot of this, right? They're automating the home no auto. They're automating that rate increase, taking the producer out of the equation. Number one, you're getting 100% accuracy because we're pulling the data that we already have and re-inputting it, right? So the quotes are super accurate, but more to the point, we haven't paid someone to do it. And the person that we are paying to do that is now completely focusing their energy into production, which in my opinion is everything right now, right? Is to maximize our abilities to quote, but also service at the same time. It's sad because at a level the human element's being taken out, but again, tis the future.
Yeah, and I put a little note down there, not taking away jobs, but being more efficient. And that's the screen is horrible the way it looks because it's like cut off. But I want people to think about this. Automation is not a bad thing. AI is not a bad thing. If you can use it the right way, it can be very powerful and it can put people in the right places. Here's a good example that I'll use. You hire a fantastic sales manager, and that sales manager is stuck sitting there cold calling, and he has a 1% chance of getting a hold of somebody when you could use automation like a LinkedIn Sales Navigator to a seamless.io, and you're using that automation to work smarter, and it's just really making you more efficient, and you're allowing that sales manager to coach the agents and develop new ways to sell. So
yeah,
I'm really excited about that one. A really good point.
To do what they do best, right? Sales being the operative word in everything we're saying here. If they're inputting useless information at a level, obviously it's important to get the quote, but the automation's huge as far as what it can do to the sales process and how it can enhance it.
right.
So with that said, we're zipping through this, guys, but it's good because we're getting a lot of good points out. The third and last topic is going to be teams. And Victoria, I know that you really wanted to talk about this one.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the importance of teams and what does that mean? What do you mean teams?
Yeah, I can, and this is another personal story. I learned the hard way. When I first got into insurance, I told you guys, when Nationwide, my husband, he's been doing it much longer. And he had, I don't know, probably 7 employees at one point. And not everybody is going to be good at everything. You have your customer service reps, you have your commercial guy, your life guy, your personal lines person, your networker. You have to be able to give up some control to grow. You know what I mean? And so when I ended up, going off and doing my own thing and opening up my own independent, and you go from captive to independent, that's a huge, it's way more work, So I'm doing this. I started off on my own and I'm like, oh my God, I have to service like all these customers with 10 different carriers. and I have to still network. I got to make some money. I got to bring in the leads. I have to do my follow-ups. I have to do my requotes out renewals. And it's like, I had to force myself to give up that control so that I can make more money, so I can grow. Otherwise, I'm sitting there collecting renewals. So even like a virtual assistant, you know, like nowadays, that's what people are doing. They're outsourcing. It's like, you need people to make money. You need people to grow any business.
We just had a comment actually from Rob Lassa asking, you know, hey, automation is great for internal process, but maintaining the human touch is uber important. Rob, you're 100% correct. Automation cannot take the human element out of it, right? Where 95% of the world is shopping online, they're still buying from an agent at 85%. And ultimately, that is hugely important. And the automation that we're discussing doesn't take away from the human element. What it's doing is allowing the human element to be more impactful, right? You're spending more time, or at least the people that you've hired, the sales team that you've hired to focus on the sales process are spending more time inside of that human element, right? You're taking them out of kind of the automation part of the process, the part of the process that should have been automated the entire time. So no, to your point, Rob, we're not killing the human element here. I think we're enhancing it with the automation, but a good point nonetheless.
Yeah, this is a great place to stir up debate, discussion, and just have an open forum. Definitely not trying to be, you know, biased in one way or the other. And by the way, we're getting a ton of comments, and if you're wondering how those comments are popping up, I'm actually getting to see them in the channel, and then I'll actually click on them to show you guys which comments are popping up. So I'd love to show them all, but we're only highlighting a couple at this time, but we're getting a ton of comments. So I do appreciate the interaction. So with that said, we're done talking about the time. We're still talking about the teams. Danny, any last thoughts on teams and how you have used teams in the past?
Well, I mean, the agency that I literally grew up in has pretty much the same staff it's had for the past 40 years. And if that doesn't speak volumes to the importance of teams, I don't know what else does. You know, your producers, your staff, they're the backbone of your agency. They're also what your customer base comes to accept and know. You know, at a level, you become family with some of these people, right? They've been with your respective agencies for 10, 20, 30 years. You've seen their children born, their grandchildren born. And that type of relationship, it's hard. It's hard to come by, number one, in business generally speaking anymore. But we still have the ability to do that through our teams. And again, I have to go back to technology, but you know, utilizing the technology that you've got. You know, back in the day for us, it was what's called master records. State Farm now uses ABS, but back in the day, for any of the old State Farmers, Echo or Necco, and existing inside of master records, and just, you know, every team member putting a note every time they spoke to a client, allowing that you created a deeper level of intimacy, so that anytime one of the other team members spoke to said client, there was a little note. You knew what their most recent pain points were, what their things that were making them happy. If they had a claim recently, whatever it was, everybody on the team being on that same page and using you know, the available technology to create a rapport and a higher level of engagement with your client base is huge. And we used it simply by putting a note. You know, now fast forward, all these notes are time stamped and dated, and we're not only using them for that intimacy, but to safeguard our agencies at a level. You know, I also think technology can be a team. To my point before, yeah, no, technology can be a team member. You know, we're talking about automation here. The Home No Auto Letter I already referenced. You know, renewal rate increases.
It's my team. It's my teammate.
Right. It's a total teammate, right? It puts you in a position again too where you can take the physical people, the humans, the human teammates, and allow them to sell again, and take your AI, your digital teammates, and allow them to automate some of the basic agent functions that we just don't need to do anymore as an agency force.
Yeah, I think it'll allow people to step out of the Stone Ages too, because we will stop doing the tedious task that just we should not be doing in the first place. So wait, we got a question from Rob Lassa, and if you guys don't know who Rob is, top dog. He's the guy. He's a powerhouse in South Florida, right? South Florida. Yeah, I mean he's a fantastic agency owner. So he actually asked Victoria, can you dive more into delegating for newer agents? I'd like to hear Rob's comments on this, but Victoria, do you have any feedback for that one?
Yeah, definitely. So there's two different ways. I would say it depends on how your agency is set up. So if you're a newer agent and you don't have any employees at all, I would say, think about your budget. One of the things I learned, think about, okay, payroll, taxes and what you want to pay them, not overpaying and paying enough, those type of things. And then also, think about maybe getting a virtual assistant or maybe outsourcing. It's a lot of companies that do that. But if you are an agency owner who already has employees in your office, it's all about training and communication. Like for me personally, when I started training at the Nationwide Agency, I would speak to people and I would take them out networking with me. Before, this was pre-COVID. So I would actually go out to several networking events here in Atlanta, and the ones that actually wanted to go with me and that showed interest and that had that personality, I'm like, okay, this person needs to be in front of people. This person is going to be someone that's going to do well on the sales side. Some of the, employees that we had that were not really into it, they were better servicing. They were better, figuring out answers and, solving issues and, just exposing them to what they can do, even with the commercial side. If somebody had some interest in commercial insurance, I gave them the option to try it out, and just see. And if it's just something that they were actually serious about, then teach them,
Sure.
Teach them commercial, teach them how you do it and let them take over, let them dominate that one thing. Don't have them do that and servicing. Let them just focus on that. Same thing with life insurance. Some people like life insurance and that's it. It's kind of one or the other too with personal lines and life insurance. Let them just focus on that. They're the expert and let them know that they're the expert, because then they'll believe it, and don't have them do anything else. And so that's kind of how I would delegate it, is just communication, exposing them, doing different trainings and, seeing what they want to do, what they're willing to do too. Because it takes a lot to go out and network, especially with commercial. It takes a lot.
And I think confidence level too, I think, is a big part of it. I think that your knowledge of the product is dire, right? You're only as good from a sales standpoint as your knowledge of the product. And the consumer in 2021 is smarter than they've ever been, right? That a lot of times they might, on the commercial side, some of these people know more about the product than we do. So if you're not coming with your A game, it's a big deal. So along what Victoria's saying here, I think training is a huge component of staffing and putting people in the right, exposing them, giving them just a deep knowledge of the product they're selling enhances their confidence and allows them to sell it better. So that's training's giant.
And technology can leverage training, right? Technology can be a huge help with training as well. There's fantastic LMS systems out there and platforms that provide training. And there's even, I'm just going back to tech, there's even automation where you can take a phone call and certain keywords trigger a script to help you say certain things on that phone call. That's just going to make you better. And then that will be cemented in your mind. Boom. So next question from a guy. We have a guy named Abidon. Probably goes by Avi. I would imagine he has a fantastic accent. He actually said, where would you suggest a low-tech independent agent begins their technology journey? That's a powerful question. Do you guys, Danny, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah. Geez, where to begin? I mean, I would say, that low-tech independent agent might still have a flip phone, right? A lot of them do. Exactly, what's the flip phone? But 100%, it's probably in a shoebox in their closet. They only take it out when they make phone calls. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you're a low-tech agent right now. I think you need to get involved in technology, period. Right, jumping right into some sort of complicated CRM or Radar or whatever else, completely breaking your process might not be the best way. I think you really just need to engage, generally speaking. If you don't understand technology, try things you haven't tried before. Jump in, get a new phone, right? Buy a new computer. Start to join YouTube. right? You get on LinkedIn, because more than likely, if you're a low tech agent, you don't have a LinkedIn profile. You're
Yeah.
just setting it up, and understanding how to set that up everything's very similar at this point. No matter
Yeah.
what platform you're on, whether it's a social media platform or you're engaging inside of a quoting platform, everything looks similar. So really, my advice to anybody who's low tech right now: engage. It's time to re-engage, or engage, period, in everything, in every facet of your life, because technology is going to be part of every facet of your life. So just engage it, embrace it, is the advice I'm giving the low tech guy. Don't be afraid of it, right? It's not going to bite. Worst thing happens is you're going to get made fun of by your kids. Might make fun of me anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Scott, you've been in tech for a while now. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to say something when I was, Danny made some great points. I would say, first off, YouTube, where we're actually streaming live, and you can join every month on our YouTube channel, Premium Podcast. YouTube is an educational powerhouse. I believe it's the #2 search engine in the world, if I'm not mistaken. But I would say keep it simple and stick to one or two things, because a lot of people, when they dive into technology, they can become overwhelmed, and they can drown in the massive tech stack that is just out there. I would just say go on YouTube, take the basic, how to run a computer, what types of software are recommended in the insurance agency. LinkedIn's a great way to connect with people, so learn the basics of LinkedIn. But again, just keep it simple, start slow, baby steps. And Danny, that's exactly what you said. So Excel is the greatest technology ever created. But from Avi, he actually wrote that in the channel. I'll highlight that right there. And then Rob, actually, we got a little debate in the chat room going back and forth. So Rob's actually saying low tech equals remove Excel from their computer. We're going back and forth. So we got a little debate here, and they got their debate going on there. We have time for one more question, and Nelson had a great question. Through automation is the key to swift interactions. I feel that role playing is so important these days. What are your thoughts? Anybody want to take a stab at that one?
Absolutely. And I feel like in sales, you have to role play. And again, that's any sales job, not just insurance. You have to do it. You have to practice. It's almost like an actor or an actress, acting. They have to practice their lines. You have to know, how you're going to sound. You got to know who you're speaking to. You got to think about these things. The only way to think about this is if you have a team, again, bring up that team. You have to have somebody give you that feedback. How do you know if you're just sitting there listening to yourself?
Yeah.
You got to have somebody there with you.
And be prepared, right? I feel like too many people just jump right into the conversation. Take a couple minutes, do a little background, read the notes on the individual, or possibly the product itself, but take your time. I mean, I couldn't agree with Victoria more on everything she just said, but as far as the role playing, I mean, as a salesman, or woman, you have to be able to talk to the plumber and talk to the executive,
Right.
and be on their level. And obviously, that's done through practice and experience, but preparation as much as anything. Know your product. Again, I know I've already said that probably 3 times now, but your ability to sell it is only as good as your knowledge of it, and that knowledge also creates strength. It creates confidence, and you exude that confidence. So preparation, but 100%, Nelson, you can't just be automation. And again, we're not suggesting that. What we're suggesting is allow the automation to run the parts of your business that it can, the parts that aren't going to be impacted by lack of emotion and the human element. Again, the things like mailers and rate increases and remarkets. Allow the system to do that, right? Allow your human element, the staff, your producers, your CSRs, by embracing the automation, you've opened up that space for them to do what they do best, to be human, to have those interactions with your clients. So again, don't mistake what we're saying about automation for getting rid of the human element. It's as important as it ever was.
So we've talked about a lot of things here. We've talked about technology, all kinds of different ways to enhance technology, enhance your business with technology. We talked about teams, we talked about the times, we've talked about a lot. Okay. But really what it comes down to, and this is leading into our next show. Our next show is going to actually be an agency owner who has successfully ran, I believe he was responsible for $30 or $40 million in premium. So he's going to be our next guest, Rob Albright. And that show is going to really take this show and say, this is how I did it. And this is kind of what I feel that should be done as a way. Another guy, Rob Lassa, he's in the chat here and on our show. He would be a great guest. And maybe he'll join that show to give his 2 cents on how to take what we talked about today and
implement it.
Truly implement it. Yes, exactly. So Rob, little shout out. Maybe we'll get you on that show if you have 30 minutes. So the last part is next up, hot seat. So we got the hot seat question, and they don't know that I'm about to ask them this question. It may be a little personal, but I don't care. Victoria, you go first. What's the largest account that you've ever placed while selling an insurance?
120,000 in premium. It was a commercial account. Yeah.
Wow.
It was I worked for a commercial company prior to my current role, and I managed accounts in several states, and this was in Texas. And we had a lot of property managers. We had a lot of people that just personally own properties, several properties. And this account was very stressful. The commission was great, but it was very stressful. So they had a building. We had to do their work comp. So this was a whole account, not just the property. We had to do their work comp, GL, and then we did a package policy for them. And it was 120,000 in premium. Took a while, but yeah, that was the largest one. I always remember that one because it was very stressful. And it was in a state that I'm not in.
So no pressure, Danny. Same question.
I don't want to talk about the one I wrote or the ones I wrote. I want to talk about the one I lost. I lost a $990,000 92 unit trucker. Yeah, and it was brutal. It was a client of mine that we wrote back in the day when he was a renters in a Honda Civic, and fast forward, just an amazing success in the trucking industry. A guy who was delivering auto parts for the entire East Coast to Ford, to Chevy, to Ford, to Chrysler, to Fiat, and took me 14 hours in the application process. Took me 4 months before I wasn't even able to quote it. And if that doesn't tell you or speak volumes to what we're talking about from a technology standpoint, systems now, we shouldn't be entering, 90 driver's license numbers and 90 VIN numbers. So we were past that, right?
Oh, my goodness.
It should be in an Excel sheet. We should be able to load it like we can through our system, and it should just be absorbed, right? Yeah. Long gone are the days of a 13-hour application process. We need to embrace technology. Certainly the IA channel needs to find a better way and embrace this technology, because we shouldn't be losing $900,000 accounts.
How sick were you? I mean,
oh my God.
I'm just saying. I'm
still angry. I'm still angry. So, yeah, that's the one I want to talk about, is the one that I lost. And I lost it to technology.
Yeah. And Nelson, he said, and there went the Maserati.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Avi says, might need some better trucking markets. Danny, I know a guy. So
do you? Thank you, Avi. I appreciate it.
Maybe we can talk to Avi after this meeting. So I want to thank everybody who joined the show. Hopefully this was entertaining. It's our first show, so we will get better. So bear with us. Victoria, Danny, any lasting thoughts just before we go?
I think I might get better at this, but I'm worried about the two of you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to
look out for Danny, everybody. His podcast will be coming out shortly.
Coming soon. Chubby guy to a theater near you.
So I think the next show, or one of the shows, we'll actually all have our dogs in our laps, and we'll see how well we do with that. So that would be a nightmare.
Yes.
Yeah. Just my dog's over there eating a Himalayan cheese stick. No joke. One of the agency owners that I'm talking to, and he's interested in the platform Renegade, he actually recommended the Himalayan cheese stick, and my dog has not said a peep this entire show. So anybody out there that wants to keep their dogs quiet, Himalayan cheese stick. Amazing.
Mm.
So, all right. Anyways, yeah. We're not sponsored by them, by the way, but maybe we will.
I was gonna say, Scott.
It's a weird sponsor.
Right.
Cheese guys.
Yeah. So with that said, guys, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, Danny and Victoria. It's been an amazing discussion. So we talked about, to recap, the times, talked about technology and also team. And we hope that everybody who joined in, and by the way, the comment section is crazy. I've done podcasts before. I've never had this many comments ever. So thank you guys. Without you, this show probably would have been way less fun. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, please, on YouTube.
And guys, don't forget, next month, December 2nd, 1 p.m. Eastern, the topic will be how to build a thriving independent agency. Special guest, Rob Albright. Excited about that one.
And maybe Rob Lassa. Maybe Rob Lassa. So maybe we'll do a double Rob. So like we had the 3 T's. Maybe we'll do the 2 R's next show.
Awesome.
Honestly, not a bad idea. And Rob Albright is one of the most impressive insurance men I've ever met. So anybody who's on this cast and wants to know how to build a successful captive, a successful independent, I don't care what you do. If you want to be successful, tune in. He's going to have good info.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.